Welcome back to the San Juan Islands Western Bluebird Project Volunteer Video Training Series. My name is Kathleen Lewis, Stewardship Manager for the San Juan Preservation Trust. In this fourth video in this series, we'll take a quick peek at the other cavity nesters you may encounter using our nest boxes, review methods for predator-proofing nest boxes, and lastly, how to properly clean the boxes at the end of the season. Let's start by reviewing what other cavity nesting species may be using these boxes during the breeding season. It's very important to know what nests you may encounter, as all but one of these species I'll talk about are native, which means their nests cannot be removed until the end of the breeding season. So there are 5 native cavity nesting species you may find using these nest boxes. The primary nest you should know, of course, is that of a western bluebird. Bluebirds are our only cavity nesting species that has a nest made entirely of grass. There's typically very little in the way of feathers or other debris. Bluebird eggs are, of course, blue, the only species in this group that lays blue eggs. Given their relative abundance, the most common birds to occupy these boxes are tree swallows and violet-green swallows. Their nests are nearly identical, but it isn't necessary to distinguish the two species. Knowing they are a swallow is reason enough to leave them be for the season. Early in the nest building phase, their nest might look like a bluebird's, all grass. If you aren't certain if it's a bluebird or a swallow at this point, you can return another time and check again. If the nest is finished off on top with feathers, it's a tree or violet-green swallow. Bluebirds do not usually add feathers to their nest, or if they do, it may only be 1 or 2. The swallows will add many to line the cup. Their eggs are small and solid white or light pink with no speckles. A house wren nest is very different than bluebirds or swallows. Open a box up, and if it's packed to the top with sticks, that is a house wren nest. It looks really uncomfortable, but at the top of these sticks is a finely woven tiny grass nest for the female wren to lay her eggs in. Wren eggs are small, white, with brown speckles. The final cavity nester you may encounter is a chestnut-backed chickadee. These nests are also distinctive, as they are usually a dreamy layer of moss, lichens, and finely woven hair or mouse fur. They definitely get my vote as having the coziest nest. The next nest to show you is very important to be able to identify, that of the non-native English house sparrow. These nests are usually messy and will often fill the entire box. They are the only species that will use a variety of materials: grass, rubbish, horsehair, twine, sticks, etc. Their eggs are cream-colored with brownish specks. If you find a house sparrow nest, we ask that you remove it. This is legal, as this is not a protected species. You may need to return several times to remove the nest if they rebuild. Please note that if bluebirds are nesting nearby, you'll need to contact me before removal of a house sparrow nest, as it's possible that they could retaliate on the nesting bluebirds. We'll come up with an effective strategy together for managing house sparrows that are nesting in a bluebird territory. Talking about house sparrows is a good segue into our next section, where I want to talk about the major threats to bluebirds in the islands. First, let's talk a little bit more about these sparrows and why they are such a threat. House sparrows don't look very threatening, but don't let their small size fool you. They are very aggressive during the breeding season and will fight other cavity nesting species to the death in order to gain access to a cavity. They will also remove or crush eggs and peck nestlings to death. If your nest box or bluebird trail contains house sparrows, you must contact me so that we can work on a strategy for house sparrow control. If your box has house sparrows in it year after year, we may need to remove the box from the area entirely. Another major predator is raccoons. They most typically predate on eggs or nestlings by climbing to the nest box and reaching in the entrance hole. If you encounter a box that has nesting material pulled out the entrance hole and has missing eggs or nestlings, this would be the work of a raccoon. Fortunately, there are ways to outwit raccoons that are fairly straightforward. Boxes that are protected by a PVC sleeve mounted on a metal pole or have a ring of flashing around the pole are all ways to keep a raccoon or other climbing predators like rats out of the nest boxes. Make sure your nest boxes are protected in some way. If they aren't, contact me and we'll come up with a plan to do so. The good news is that in recent years, our incidents of raccoon predation have diminished with increased predator protection methods such as these. Free-ranging and outdoor domestic cats are always an issue and the predator that we are least able to manage for. It's a sad but true fact that we lose members of our small and vulnerable population of bluebirds to house cats every year. Many pet owners are fiercely protective of their cats and insist that they need their outside time. If you feel comfortable addressing this with landowners, we can provide some talking points to share with them. If you don't want to tackle this issue with them, one mitigation measure is requesting that the vicinity of the nest box be mowed. This will prevent cats from sneaking up and ambushing adults feeding on the ground, or perhaps ambushing vulnerable juveniles who haven't had the strength to fly to a branch after leaving the nest box. Another option is to ask landowners who have nesting bluebirds to keep their cats indoors just for the brief nesting season. Window collisions are a threat to all birds, but there are many ways to mitigate for that. A visit to the American Bird Conservancy's website has a list of solutions and resources to help reduce the risk of window strikes. Lastly, there are many natural aerial predators. In our region, American kestrels are the biggest threat. We are currently evaluating the efficacy of aerial predator guards and will address mitigation measures on a case-by-case basis. Okay, for the last segment of this video, let's discuss the proper way to clean out a nest box at the end of the season. Remember that this should be done after the breeding season is complete and before bluebirds arrive back in the islands in the spring. So a good window really is any time between September and February. Before you clean the nest box out, make sure you gather your necessary supplies. Here's what you'll need to have with you. A multi-tool for opening hard-to-open boxes, a lightweight step stool or ladder to access tall boxes, an ice scraper, which is ideal for scraping out nest material, extra nails if the door has lost its locking mechanism, and gloves. Optional items are a face mask and glasses. Sometimes when you open the box, the wind will blow nest material back into your face. And a bottle of dilute bleach. This solution is really handy for cleaning out very soiled nests. Bleach should be diluted with water at a 1:10 ratio. Be careful when opening a nest box. Sometimes in the fall and winter there could be insects. Remove the nest material and dispose of it at least 100 feet away so as to not attract predators to the site. Do be aware that some nest boxes may contain dead nestlings. This is an unfortunate but fairly common sight. After the nest material is removed, scrape out any remaining debris with the ice scraper and then spray with the dilute bleach if necessary. Close the box up and make sure the closing nail or screw is tight. Okay, this concludes our discussion about nest box cleaning, predators, and other cavity nesting species. Our final video will review how you report on bluebird and house sparrow activity. Until then, thanks for watching.